My friend from Louisiana, and that's exactly true. The House Democrats have done this. It's all one big party. And while we are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving next week, families gathered together giving thanks, I am absolutely confident there will not be one family in America giving thanks for the economic crisis created by President Joe Biden and the Democrats, the crisis economically that they are serving the American people. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, this is going to be the most expensive Thanksgiving in history. From turkey to potatoes, pumpkin pie, you name it, this is going to be the most expensive Thanksgiving ever. Probably a whole lot fewer second trips for food or thirds or whatever your family is accustomed to. Meanwhile, what is the answer that our Democrat friends are giving us? Democrats here in Washington have a great solution. Let's spend trillions of more dollars. Let's make inflation go up even more. Let's put more pain and suffering around the Thanksgiving tables and the pocketbooks of the American people. While Americans are pinching their pennies, literally, to live within their means, President Biden and his socialist cronies on the other side of the aisle here in Washington are wanting to spend even more of the hard-earned money of the American taxpayer and the American worker. The Democrats' socialist gravy train has left the station, and the American people, I assure you, are not at the table. They are not on board with what's happening in this country. Americans are the ones paying the price for this. They are paying the price for President Biden's budget-busting policies. More money at the gas pumps, more money at Thanksgiving table this year, more money for everyday goods. We can go down the list. It's high time, it's past time that President Biden and the Democrats stop this reckless runaway spending. Our economy cannot afford trillions of more dollars that we don't have for unnecessary spending, for socialist, Marxist spending, robbing us not only of our hard-earned income, but our liberties, our freedoms that we love and cherish in this country. It's time that we put a stop to this nonsense. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, my friend. And that voice from Georgia is so strong, I think we're going to stick with that theme. I'll yield to another gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Clyde.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Johnson. Madam Speaker, too many falsehoods have been spread about the Democrats' multi-trillion-dollar tax and spend bill, the most radical and expensive piece of legislation in our history. The American people deserve to know the truth about the grave ramifications of passing this fiscally irresponsible liberal wish list. So let's unpack some of these egregious Pinocchios. For starters, the left has erroneously claimed that the so-called Build Back Better Act is fully paid for and will cost American taxpayers $0. This is false. While we have not yet received the official CBO score, models show that the Biden big government socialist spending package could cost more than double what Democrats have previously reported. The number could be upwards of $4.5 trillion, with $3 trillion of it being in new debt. Additionally, President Biden has touted for months that this legislation will not raise taxes on Americans earning less than $400,000 a year. According to early reports from the Congressional Budget Office, this is completely false as well. A recent analysis from the Tax Policy Center found that the reckless reconciliation bill will hike taxes for 20 to 30% of middle-class families next year. Yet taxpayers in the top 5% will see a combined total tax cut of $32 billion. What a slap in the face to the millions of small businesses, hardworking employees, and their families. Lastly, the President and his Democrat allies have absurdly stated that passing their pricey package will help ease inflation. Ease inflation? Really? This is completely illogical and defies all reason, unless, of course, your intent is to deceive. Injecting trillions of dollars of borrowed federal money into the economy, with billions of it going to climate change, will only worsen the already burdensome effects of record high inflation. The result will be Americans struggling to afford gas, groceries, and heating bills. Keep in mind, the sole intent of the Biden-Bernie Bankruptcy Act's enormous cost is to fund unpopular and radical policies such as taxpayer-funded abortion, weaponizing the IRS, and mass amnesty for illegal migrants. Oh, and don't forget about the 150-plus new government programs that will further expand the federal government's size and scope. Simply put, the unfortunate truth is that by ramming through their big government socialist spending spree, Democrats are selfishly prioritizing their dangerous far-left agenda over the needs of the American people. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate those comments. And Madam Speaker, I now yield 2 minutes. The gentleman from Alabama, sticking with our Southern theme, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. I appreciate your leadership on this. Madam Speaker, I rise alarmed at the unprecedented wasteful spending from Washington that is fueling inflation and risking the future of our republic. Just last week, this Congress passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. Despite the bill's characterization, less than 10% went to traditional, what us Southerners and common sense people call roads and bridges. But $200 million went back to a park in Speaker Pelosi's own backyard. According to the New York Times, certainly not an ally of the Republicans, said the Democrats' reconciliation bill before us this week includes, and I want to quote, $4.1 billion tax break for people who buy electric bicycles, $2.5 billion for tree equity, not sure what that is, and another $2.5 billion to help the contingency fee lawyers recoup expenses. Madam Speaker, this captures exactly what is wrong with Washington. Too many politicians up here will gladly endorse trillions in new spending for a few pennies of pork to come back to their district. They put their political futures above our own nation. Well, I'm sick of it. The American people are too. Congress is bleeding the American people dry with waste and pet projects it claims is being spent in their own best interest. Sure, I would love for the federal government to build a new road in my district, but I refuse to sacrifice the health and viability of this nation to get it. And most patriotic Americans would agree with me. Roads and bridges come and go, but if we foolishly squander the nation of our forefathers that they fought so hard to create, we will selfishly allow this great American experiment to die because of our own greed. Shame on us, because we will have ultimately failed those who elected us and sent us here to protect their best interest. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, my friend. That's so well said. And another plain-spoken Southerner I'll bring up from the state of Georgia, Mr. Carter, 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Speaker, the spending spree continues this week as Democrats continue to try and ram their ridiculous reconciliation bill down our throats. The radicals have been backseat driving far too long. Our holiday cheer is now being threatened by this administration's refusal to cut up the credit cards. It's truly astonishing. We're all set to experience the most expensive Thanksgiving in our country's history, thanks to these reckless spending habits perpetrated by the White House. Turkey prices up 27%, potatoes up 13%, carrots up 47%, and the beloved pumpkin pie from Costco up 17%. The consumer price index is up 6.2% overall. This is an indicator of how much extra people are having to pay for their goods. In addition, natural gas up 40%, home heating oil up 60%. Americans are being forced to pay more to heat their homes in a time when the weather is at its coldest. Nowhere in America should hardworking taxpayers have to choose between heating their home and putting food on the table. These are not pandemic-related issues anymore. They are government-created issues. This is what socialism looks like, and Joe Biden says, get used to it. Empty shelves, runaway inflation, and government control. This no longer looks like America. It looks like a failed socialist nation. That's what it looks like. We will not cave to the desires of the far left. We will push back. America will remain free, and we will prevail. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now yield back.
Thank you for that optimistic close. As Reagan said, we are the last best hope of man on earth. We better hold it. Madam Speaker, I'm delighted to yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. The only thing President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, and the Democrats in Congress will be building back better is China's economy. Truly, they are building Beijing back better. A new report released today shows that China has officially surpassed the U.S. as the richest nation in the world because Congress gave China most favored nation status under the Clinton administration. They've definitely tipped the scales for Chinese manufacturing. D.C. politicians themselves have been enriched off of China while the American middle class suffers. Now, Democrats are pushing the Green New Deal policies that will make the middle class suffer even more with higher gas prices and home heating bills this winter. Biden's policies enrich China because they manufacture solar panels, lithium batteries, and windmills, and taxpayers are going to be forced to subsidize this. China mines these minerals for batteries and solar panels with child labor and slave labor. When asked about the slave labor behind the Green New Deal, John Kerry said it was, quote, "not my lane." That's despicable. Thank you, and I yield back.